Heyo, all you beautiful drywall people out in the beautiful drywall world. Hello, and welcome to an orientation episode of the Drywall Podcast. I am your host, once again, Nick Harmon. With us today, Spencer Dahlen of Dysylvia Drywall and Construction out of Kalispell, Montana. Spencer is a really great guy, I'm not just saying that, who runs a really great business. He's very successful, and he's only 30 years of age. We talk a lot about that business, but we talk a lot about Fresco. He's just getting into the Fresco. He's very excited about it. And we also talk a lot about life balance. Yeah.
But it's hectic. And one thing I've noticed is a lot of these contractors are kind of price gouging, if they don't want the job, and, people don't have time for the smaller jobs and things like that. So I try to make time for everybody. I have a hard time saying no.
Yeah, that's why you're successful. Spencer is not a heavy social media influencer type, and he doesn't review a lot of tools. He doesn't even take a lot of photos of himself on the job, and you may not have ever heard of him. He's a normal drywall person. He's a hard-working family man who took time out of his day to share a little slice of his story with us, and I'm super appreciative and excited for this episode. Speaking of this episode, I'm a little sad. It's our last episode that is sponsored by our good friends at SurPro Stilts. All of the episodes in August have been brought to you by SurPro Stilts. SurPro is the name in stilts. They've dominated the stilt space since 1996. They've also procured Stilts.com. They hold numerous utility patents and are committed to innovation. But what truly sets them apart is the minds behind the brands. Engineers who don't settle for good enough. Inventors who envision a better way, and their drive to leave a lasting impact on each and every professional lucky enough to own a pair of these stilts. They are true champions of the industry, and I'm super grateful to them for sponsoring this episode. Be sure to check out Stilts.com for more information on the X models like the S1X and S2X and the flexion foot system. Also, be sure to check out our episodes with Brandon Hunter, 99 and 102. He is a SurPro expert, and we are doing an ice bath giveaway with one free pair of stilts. But for now, Spencer Dahlen of Dysylvia Drywall and Construction on the 107th episode of the Drywall Podcast. Let's get into it. There he is again.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Spencer Dahlen. You've been slinging the mud, haven't you?
It's been a muddy day, man. I'm everywhere.
Were you I hope you weren't racing home or something.
No, I have like 3 going right now, so I'm like running around all over the place. I finally walked in the door, but I want to take the time for sure.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. No, it's good to see you, dude. I laid it on today, and it's a pretty easy application. I mean, it really is.
The Fresco.
I did, yes, dude.
Hey, wait, Spencer, you got to talk like you're talking to an audience of like 80,000 drywallers. Dude, they don't know what you're talking about when you say lay it on, man. You might be running the box. You might be taping. Who knows?
Understood. Yeah. You have the following, man. So I'm not used to being recorded, but no, I love it. I want to, as a newbie, it's getting into it is there's a learning curve, and we're speaking specifically about Fresco. So I'm really intrigued. So these are my sample boards that I have. I don't know if I can switch it around. I'm really, there's a learning curve to it, but I really love the product. I laid that sealer on last night, and I'm like, wow, it's really a game changer, in terms
Interesting.
Of, the final finish. It's, for somebody that hasn't really, gotten into the world of plaster, and, there's definitely, you don't really want to rush. I've noticed, you have to make sure that you're you're prepped correctly. And, you know, I think my biggest thing was I didn't let it dry fully. So I got kind of some varnish, like some smaller scoring and stuff like that on my sample boards, but
Okay.
it's nothing that, you know, it's trial and error, man, you know. But I did one recently today that was a master bedroom, and it was your Westbrook tan. And so I skimmed it really, really tight yesterday. And then I did a really nice light Santa Fe. But just kind of got, you know, and I kind of wanted it to match the rest of the house because there's a Santa Fe texture in the rest of the house. So I wanted it to look similar.
Right.
But I want to send you some, you know, some videos of that tomorrow, possibly. But it's an incredibly easy product to use. But there's definitely a learning curve, you know, and I want to try to take it to that next step. I have a ton of interest, you know, and especially in this area where, you know, they have, you know, a lot of high-end builders looking for, you know, high-end finishes, and they can't always afford plaster. So it's a great opportunity, and I know there's a huge market. So, and I've got so much going on, man. I'm like right now, like almost 6 months out, and I'm scheduling into next year.
That's great.
Year. So it's hectic. And anytime I feel like people have, you know, pretty much the budget, you know, I try to recommend it always. I mean, it's my first go-to because, you know, paint is upwards of, you know, $1.50 to $2 a square foot. And, you know, I tell people, you know, it's a great substitute to plaster, you know, plaster finishes. And, I want to take it to that next step, you know, and I want to try to get my crews trained up on it so they're familiar with the product. And, you know, everybody I've shown it to, they're just like, where did you get this?
Okay.
You know?
All right. Well, let's back up just a bit. I want to give our listeners a background. And also, I don't have like a crazy following. I was sort of exaggerating a little bit. We do have people that regularly listen to the Drywall podcast. That audience is growing all the time. And hopefully we create great content that keeps people coming back and listening to more episodes. I think it's interesting meeting all you drywall guys and gals, and I think that it's bringing the drywall community together. So we're gonna keep trying to do that. Spencer and I connected because you had kind of known about Fresco Harmony for a little bit, and you can stop me or change the story any way you can, but like you reached out to me and you were like, I think you texted me and you were like, you had a question. Hey, I've got these clients. I might need some grays. You know, we got 20,000 square feet of wall. I'm like, holy crap, this guy's got like some, you know, some interest up there. So instead of just fielding a call, I think you were texting me in the night. I was like, let's do a Zoom call and I'll answer your questions real time, which by the time this episode airs, I will have dropped that 30-minute phone conversation with you specifically about Fresco Harmony. So we talked about color, we talked about sales. We didn't necessarily talk about application, but since then I was like, dude, you know, you're great on camera. Let's do a full podcast. So to just give clarification, we've got Spencer Dahlen, Dysylvia Drywall and Construction out of Kalispell, Montana. And you seem young, but I don't know the age. How old are you?
I just turned 30, like I'm 30. Just turned 30.
30 years young. So, and
I'm still young. Yeah.
It sounds like you're slamming, dude. Do you like being that busy? And we're going to get into your past. Do you like being that busy? And what can you attribute to your being so busy? Yeah.
So I think probably my biggest part of my success, I think, is being, you know, just communicating with my clients is huge. I've noticed everyone that I've heard from in terms of, you know, in the drywall industry has been the fact that they're dealing with these builders or these contractors that have so much going on. I apologize, man, for all the stuff, but yeah,
you're good. No worries.
And they've kind of just told me, you know, hey, we just appreciate that you communicate, you let us know exactly what's going on, you know, and it's a huge part of, you know, the whole process. A lot of these guys that get so busy that they're not able to take a phone call, you know, or call their customers back every hour or so. you know, when I get a phone call. And you know, having a broken down proposal, a lot of these guys are kind of flying by the seat of their pants, where, you know, they just give them a number right off the hip, and then they don't have any kind of proposal set up. They don't have anything that really lets the client know that they're in good hands, you know. And so that's probably been, you know, my greatest success. And then also I started having clients actually leave reviews on my Google page. So that's really helped tremendously too. And you know, I'm in a market to where, you know, not everybody's super busy all over the country, but, you know, thankfully, you know, here in Montana, we've just got a huge boom that hasn't really stopped, you know. And I kind of hit the ground running. You know, I've worked for other subs that, or other contractors that were drywall contractors that weren't really communicating. They weren't letting people know what was going on. And, you know, they'd leave scrap on the front of the house for, you know, 2 weeks, and, you know, just the simple stuff, you know. So I think, that's really what it comes down to. And the work, obviously, quality. You know, I'm there, I'm the first one there and the last one to leave. You know, I kind of really maintain, you know, the quality by, you know, seeing every wall and going through stuff, you know, and that's been huge, you know. And yeah, it's great, man. It's an awesome opportunity for my family, you know. And I worked for, you know, $25-30 an hour for, you know, 5 years before I was like, you know what, I'm going to go out and do my own thing. And
well, let's back up. Let's back up a little bit. Are you first generation drywaller?
So I am. So my dad's actually an electrician, but I've worked for, you know, RDJ Brothers.
No shame. No shame. We're not going to badmouth your dad on here, dude. It's okay. Tell him that we forgive him, and we'll try to keep the mud out of those boxes.
I've worked for RDJ Bros, and that's how I first started out, was actually hanging sheetrock, high-end homes, you know, hanging all 5/8 over my head for, you know, a number of years. And I wanted to get into the finishing aspect because it was a lot more satisfying. So where I started, but I've worked for everybody, you know. And we worked on GSK Pharmaceuticals in Hamilton, Montana. It was a $500 million project, but it was all smooth wall. So I've seen, you know, a lot of drywall finishing, you know. And one thing I've noticed is the fact that these houses really aren't built well, you know, especially here where they're kind of just slapping them up. So we have to deal with, you know, crooked framing, bowed walls. I mean, just a variety of just like, here you go, like, make it look good. You know, so I enjoy the remodels too, because the challenge, you know. And I know I'm getting all over the place, but yeah, so that's pretty much where I started. I was working for everyone, and a lot of high-end drywall contractors that eventually end up phasing into more general construction. So I saw a need, and I wanted to fill that need, you know. And it's gone pretty well so far. The biggest thing was finding quality subs, you know, to pretty much have under my belt. But now that I have 2 hanging crews going now, and then I have 2 taping crews. And I finally have got it dialed into where it's going to be a successful business if I can continue, you know, which it probably will. I've seen the amount of new construction is just astronomical. I mean, there's just not enough tradesmen in general, you know. And so I've kind of hit the ground running with it. And, you know, I didn't really think it would turn out as successful as it is. And now I'm like, all right, I want to phase into something a little more high end.
Yeah.
You know, because that's really what it is, you know, if I can double my profit, and, you know, my cash flow it comes hand in hand. Really, realistically, it's the next step in, you know, the next journey that I want to take in the drywall industry. It's insane, man. I mean, I even dropped some of those the color sheets that you sent me, and people they're excited about it, because it's, you know, this is a whole nother aspect of, you know, of drywall. And they didn't realize that there was a product like this. I mean, you can't really compare it to anything, you know.
Right.
And so it's really unique in its own way. And just the market, you know, people can afford $4 or $5 a square foot. They can't afford $12 a square foot. Talk to a homeowner, and they're like, well, what are my options? You know, I have it's 22,000 square feet of wall, a lot of vaulted ceilings. And his wife's like, well, I want my mantle to be gray, and, you know, I want all my walls to have different colors throughout. And it's like, well, I can do that. It's stressful. Running your own business is stressful, especially I think I need somebody to kind of help me manage everything, because you can tell I'm like just everywhere all the time.
But no, dude, I appreciate you taking the time. I should have sat down on a computer, but dude, you're killer, Nick. As soon as I called you, man, I knew I was in good hands. So I was like, if I've got any issues, I can just call the guy I know. But,
well, it's funny. No, this is a good point. It's funny because, I mean, people get nervous that they're not going to do it right. I mean, we're drywallers, you know, we're used to perfection. We have a certain mindset, but it's interesting to me. People get like really worried about doing it right, or like they've never been on a Zoom call, and this is just kind of like, it goes with the aspect of being a drywaller. And the challenges that I've had selling Fresco is not about like whether or not the product works or doesn't work. It's like doing something new and realizing like, oh, you guys, it's just joint compound, man. Yeah, there's a learning curve like we started talking about, but it's still mud, man. You're just you're just texturing, you're just adding color, and then the sealer is just like skimming a wall. The sealer's fun to apply, especially on large volume. It's like
I'm stoked to do it tomorrow, because I put it on those sample boards and I'm like, this is it. I mean, this is the ticket. I mean, it really spreads nicely. And
people don't realize the sealer is like, it kind of looks like just like 2 coats of drywall mud with flashing until you put that sealer on. And then it's like, boom, it like finishes it. Everything. It's a really big deal.
Oh yeah. And I'm like, man, I need to order more color packs. Hello, what's up, handsome boy?
And also, I love having kids on the Drywall Podcast. Doesn't bother me a bit, so don't sweat it, man.
Even when they're upset, I know he's like, "Come on, man, I want your attention." I know, come here. Oh, come here. Oh.
How old is he?
2.5.
What's up, big man?
What's up? Say hi.
Hi.
How you doing? Where we at? There we are.
There it is.
Yeah.
2.5. And who do we got here? What's his name?
This is Arthur.
Arthur.
Yeah.
Dude, how'd you get so big, Arthur?
Dude, I don't know. He just blew up. He's climbing over everything. He's everywhere all the time. He's a full-time job.
Yeah. And do you have any more kids?
We have Natalie. So Natalie has just turned 7. So she's actually on the spectrum. She's nonverbal, but
okay.
I know, balloons. So it was her birthday yesterday. So we've got all the decorations and stuff from yesterday.
It was my girlfriend's birthday yesterday.
Was it?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Last day. Fun fact. Last day of Leo. So she's right on the cusp. They'll be interested. Yeah. They'll be interested for a little bit, and then it's
cool, else. Dude, because I've watched your podcast, and it's really intriguing to know that people are kind of in the same, position as me. And a lot of these guys have been doing it for, 15, 20 years. And, to see a young guy starting out it's important to see that the trades are going in the right direction, and it's hard to find good help where I'm at, and it's
everywhere.
Yeah. And
so you listen to, or you watch a couple of episodes, or have you been watching for a while?
Dude, I've been watching them all, like all your TikToks. And then I went on your YouTube, because I tried to kind of before I even ordered any product, I kind of wanted to become a little more familiar with it. So,
okay.
Kind of, how the process, applying sand and kind of how the base coat goes on. And I overthought it a little bit, but now that I've used the product, I'm like, wow, man. I was like, it's pretty much exactly what I've been doing, just with color additives and a sealer, and
yeah.
So but there's just so many applications, and, there's a lot of high-end remodels going on right now. And so, yeah. To be able to turn somebody's home into something that they're fresh looking walls, dude, and it's just clean, and it's huge. And yeah, I got sick of, there's so many drywallers that it's going to set me apart from everyone else, which is huge. And a lot of the guys that do plaster here in the Valley, they just do plaster, so it's a great, just very versatile product. So
We've had a couple of Montana people on the podcast. We had Drywall Shorty, Chris Bush came down and worked with me. They're from out of Bozeman, Three Forks. He came down and we covered up some popcorn and we worked together and taught him a ton of stuff.
Yeah. And, I'm familiar with Drywall Shorty. I mean, she's huge. I mean, she's all over the place, and people, I mean, even, do-it-yourselfers, they get a lot of knowledge. I know, I'm like,
totally.
But she's a great, lady to learn from, for sure. And she's been in the industry a long time, and, she's not afraid to teach people, which is great. I still learn stuff every day, and I'm not done learning. And, my other crews, they're interested in the product too, because they're like, we don't want to stop learning, if we can try to make that, and, and it's, I'm pretty excited about the whole process of it.
So you're on the precipice of this. When did you branch out, I guess, on your own? You worked for somebody for a period of time. You said you did hanging a little bit. How old were you when you branched out on your own?
It's been 5 years now that I went and started my own business, and I just turned 30. So I think I worked for people when I was 18 hanging sheetrock, and then probably about 4 years later, roughly, I kind of started to branch out into the finishing, and then, another 5 years, and I saw a market and just kind of went for it, and it took me a long time to get a decent credit line. Pacific Supply actually just offered me a $25,000 credit line, so then I'm, it's a next step in building my business.
Yeah.
That's been a huge game changer. And Pacific is, I mean, they're great. They're kind of new up here in Montana, because I was kind of getting screwed on the sheetrock prices big time. I mean, I was paying close to like $26 to $28 a sheet to have it stocked.
What's the company? What's the retailer called?
Pacific Supply. But we used Northwest Drywall is what I was familiar with using, but she was kind of price gouging on the sheetrock costs. So I was, I couldn't compete with all these big finishers that were, they were charging not very much money, per square foot. And it was because they were getting the sheetrock for pretty cheap. So my hangers are pretty expensive. I mean, I pay guys depending on the house, if it's something small. Yeah, it's
smart though to pay good. I think to pay extra for good hanging. Stop me if I'm wrong. It makes the whole job go smoother when you get in there to finish, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, and not to mention I can warranty my work. A lot of these guys just warranty their work for a year, but I do 2 years or more, because I know if the hanging's done correctly, I don't cut costs and, just have a cheap crew in there, then I know that the finish is going to turn out immaculate, and we bevel all of our butt joints like Drywall Shoddy does, and which is huge because of expansion and contraction, in winter months, and summer months. So a lot of the board isn't really, I don't know if it's not produced well over the last 4 or 5 years, but it's something about how they don't glue the surfaces of the sheetrock, fully. So we just don't get drywall mud behind those seams. So what happens is it'll actually show over a period of time. So they don't do it everywhere, but we tend to do it. We'll bevel and then we pre-fill everything before we start or anything like that. But
awesome.
It's a huge aspect, and I learned the hard way because there's a lot of other, taping crews and taping contractors in the valley that they don't really bevel their butt joints. So there's a lot, but the biggest thing is just being on site all the time is really what it comes down to. A lot of these other contractors will just sub it out and then not show up until the job's done and it's time to collect a check. But it's really important that you're involved and people appreciate it.
And you guys are, I like seeing Natalie cruising around. I have an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I mean, it's just, it's, I started a little later than you, obviously.
She got a new.
She's awesome. Oh my God. I love it. That thing is sweet.
Yeah. She's like, this is my favorite toy ever now. So it's a lot, man. Being a daddy and then trying to run a business. And then, it's hard on the wife because you're working hard all the time and long hours. And
can we give a shout out to the wife and what's her name, if you don't mind?
Sure. Haley.
Cool.
Yeah. So
And how long have you two been married, I assume?
we've been almost together, probably about almost 10 years now. And so
Okay,
yeah,
excellent.
and we grew up in the same area and went to the same
Yeah,
schools. And we dated back in high school, and we make a good team, and she
sounds
understands
like
that.
it.
Yeah, but it's hard, just like anyone, everybody has their own stuff going on, but
Oh yeah.
but we're happy. Yeah, definitely. And Montana's beautiful, man. If you ever get the chance to come take a look at it, I mean, Glacier National Park, like going to the
Yeah.
sun. I mean, it's postcard worthy.
I've been to Kalispell, Montana.
Oh, have you? Okay.
Uh,
What?
I'm from I had my cousin lived up in Spokane, Washington, and I was born in Walla Walla.
Oh, sweet. So that's awesome. Yeah, my grandpa used to teach at Gonzaga University. He was a philosophy
Okay.
professor, and then my mom grew up in Spokane. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's killer, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, my dad and I took a trip over there. I can't even remember why we were driving over there now, but we took a trip over to Kalispell and yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's beautiful, and but it's gotten so busy, man, and it's like it's a blessing and a curse because it like, used to be so quiet around here, and now
Sure.
it's just like booming
Yeah,
like
my
crazy.
my parents lived in Anaconda, Montana.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's nice over there, dude. Yeah,
Like 30 years, like no, 50 years ago. They were
wow.
in Anaconda. There was nothing.
Yeah.
And my mom hated the snow, and they're both from Walla Walla, so they went back there. That's where I was born, and then we moved to Vancouver after that.
Yeah, it's Anaconda's really nice. My mom actually just went camping over there. But
Funny.
it's everywhere in Montana is beautiful, except for like further east, like towards the Canadian border, it's really flatlandsy. But this part, like Northwest is just absolutely gorgeous. And it's brought an incredible amount of people here. I mean, from all over the place, California, Oregon, Texas.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but it's hectic. And one thing I've noticed is a lot of these contractors are kind of price gouging, if they don't want the job, and people don't have time for the smaller jobs and things like that. So I try to make
Right.
time for everybody. I have a hard
Yeah,
time saying no.
yeah, that's why you're successful. Okay, so you guys are running the tools, yeah?
Yes, yep. We run. I usually run Columbia.
Okay.
Columbia is probably my favorite. I used to run a lot of Tape Tech,
Okay.
but Columbia, I like their customer service, and I don't know. I don't really use my carbon fiber tube, but it's a bad tube. But
What do you mean you
yeah,
don't use, what do you mean you don't use it?
I kind of take care of it because it's my baby. So it's kind of my spare. So I'll use my Tape Tech until she dies. But it's like my spare. But I've collected a lot of tools over the last 4
I'm
or 5
sure.
years. I really take really good care of them. They're like, why do you pack your tools up every day? And I'm like, oh, I don't know, because people walk into a job site and they're like, it's the easiest, and they're nice and shiny, and they're expensive, and it's like I just want to just take good care of my stuff, but I've just gotten so busy, man, that like I haven't been doing a lot of the taping. I mean, a lot of it's logistics and staging
Right.
jobs and
Yeah,
making sure
yeah.
subs are ready. But I love what I do, and it's really satisfying, but
Well, a little while ago, I was going to get into the Doug McKenzie episode. I don't know if you caught that one. It was 2 episodes ago. He is starting the Drywall CEO Academy, where he talks to professionals about that aspect of scaling while maintaining sort of your sanity. I don't know if you caught that episode, but he's like, he's grown businesses in the commercial space. He's up in Canada, but pretty interesting concept. It's like a business coach for drywallers to help, like, sort out some of the mess that we get into, myself included. It was an interesting episode.
no, I should go and watch that because I'm at the point now where I'm like, guys, I'm barely keeping my sanity. I'm just kidding. But
Well, right. It's time, it's money, it's spreading yourself too thin, it's profit margins, like all of these things that create this squeeze effect where it's like we don't have time to breathe. And that's not, you're making a lot of money, but you're sacrificing all of that time, especially with the little ones. and the wife and all of that stuff. You know, it's a very interesting concept. And he had coaches from different business coaches to get to where he is now. But he was like, there's nobody, just like the Drywall Podcast. There was not really a podcast for drywallers. There's no real specific drywall specific business coaches out there. So he was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I want to teach people sort of how I created these systems to help them better manage time and create more profit margin. You know, because if you're creating more profit margin, you can have more time theoretically. I mean,
yeah, I don't think I'm quite at that point where I need to hire a manager or,
right.
you know, somebody to kind of check in on my jobs. I mean, my dad kind of wants to get a little more involved because he knows it's wearing on me. I mean, I just started growing my beard out recently, and I was like, I've got gray hairs popping out everywhere.
Yeah.
Like I just, you know, I'm like, oh my God, it'll take a toll on you and everyone around you. So it's really important to, you know when to, you know, I need to put my phone down on the weekends, you know, and actually spend time with the kids.
Yeah.
So it's a very fine balance, you know, and
For
so,
sure.
but I'm, you know, it's been going well, but I do need to like take it easy a little bit.
Yeah.
And
And hopefully make a little more profit with the Fresco Harmony. I mean, you know, I don't want to harp on like the Fresco Harmony. I love your excitement around it and the fact that you haven't even completed a job yet. That makes me like, you're seeing sort of the vision like out of the gate, and that's what creates success. Cam did too. It's your man Cam. I mean, he called me on the phone after we had a podcast and he was like, dude, I want to just order some product and get it going. And he's doing, I don't know if you know this, but on where he's at in Ohio, they texture out ceilings and leave the mud. They don't paint. They just leave it.
Yeah. Which is interesting. I
was like, dude, you could just like they could have like a choice of different colors. I mean, on a really simple level, and you can just leave it or spray seal it or something.
But he doesn't steal it or anything like that. He's just leaving it. Really?
No, it's a way that they do it over there. And it's so interesting because I get to hear all these different ways people do things. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. They don't even paint, you know. Never heard of that. And then up north, it's just smooth finish. East Coast, it's all smooth finish. And then we get to have cool texture conversations with the dudes in Florida, the dudes in California, the guys in Colorado. They do a lot of texture up there. You know, hand texture is real popular, just like you guys in Montana.
A lot of stuff is swirl too. I don't know if you're familiar with the swirl, but we bring it, like a level 4 finish, but it's got to be really smooth. And versus a lot of these guys are lazy. So they, you know, they like the hand texture because we can pretty much hide anything, you know, and it's like, but, you know, I love Fresco, and I don't mean to harp on it either, but I know the potential of the product that it is, you know, and I see it as it's huge for me, you know, because I wanted to get into plaster, but I was scared because if you mess something up, you're done. Versus Fresco, I've got.
How do you know though? Did you mess around with plaster? I mean, I actually did one plaster job and I didn't like it, and I moved over and started messing around with colored mud and developed Fresco Harmony. I didn't like the way it didn't wash off of my tools. What I did like about it was the $12 a square foot price point they were getting for the product. And I was like, holy shit, like they're getting $1.30 for drywall and they're getting $12 for plaster. That makes no sense. I'm in the wrong business. Why aren't all drywallers doing some type of specialty finish?
Yeah. And we're the ones making everything look good, dude. I mean, I walk into these houses and they're crooked. I mean, they're crooked, and these framers are just like, here you go, have fun. You know, and it's important to, the reason why I didn't get into plaster, and I have buddies that have done plaster for 20, 30 years. I mean, I had a guy that was working with me that was a taper. He couldn't tape at all, but he was a mean plasterer. I mean, he could do stucco, Venetian. I mean, but I just don't like the fact that it's forgiving. I mean, you can't have somebody pick up a trowel, you know, and it takes years and years of experience to learn how to plaster efficiently and correctly. Versus Fresco, it's just more forgiving for somebody that's still, you know, learning and, you know, trying to get better, you know. And it's easier. You know what I mean? I think, in my opinion, I believe that plaster would be something that I wouldn't want to mess something up. You know, if I do a 20,000, yeah, exactly. A 200 sheet house or a 400 sheet house, it's like, I would be worried that something's going to flash or, something like that. But Fresco, I have a little more, and I even laying it on, today, I was just like, man, I was like, this is a product that I know. And like you were talking about spraying it out and then, pretty much skimming it for your base coat.
Yeah,
that would be great for the Santa Fe finish,
or rolling it. We've had dudes roll it. You can roll it out and then have a guy come behind and smooth it out too. That's pretty quick. What did you mean? There's a little bit of a learning curve. What specifically were you talking about?
So I think my biggest thing is patience. So I don't think I was in such a hurry yesterday because it was my daughter's birthday, but I was so excited to get some sample boards done. And I'm like outside doing the sample boards and my girl's like, where are you? I'm like, I'm working on these sample boards. And as soon as I don't think I let my second coat fully dry. And then I got, I think some smaller, I could show you what it looks like, but it was kind of like some black marks because I didn't put it on with a pool trowel. I just put it on with a 6-inch knife.
Oh,
and
it kind of been rust from your blade. Yeah.
Yes, probably. I think I need to have some patience with this product. I mean, it's not like regular, doing drywall. You have to. Yeah,
you want your, and I'll use stainless too is good. I used to use blue steel and I completely changed over to stainless, and then I use a composite hawk.
I see.
And because the lead hawks, you'll get the lead will come off too.
That's probably what it was, because it was little black marks and it wasn't everywhere, but I could tell. I was like, something's not right. So I'm going to redo my sample boards because I don't want my builder to see those and be like, oh, this is what it's going to look like.
That's a good point too. And you could use a pan too. You don't have to use a hawk if you're doing a sample board. It doesn't matter. However you do texture is kind of the way I would recommend doing it. But just that's a good point, because when you go to a larger area, this is why I see these trainings where people are doing little sample boards. It's like, okay, that's fine. You can dial in a sample board, like a little art piece or whatever, do stenciling and etching and, spray this and do this and burnish. And I'd spend all this time on a little 2x2 sample board, but that is not the same as doing a 25 by 30 foot room with window returns, square corners, bull nose, like whatever.
Yeah.
That's a different animal when you attack that. It's like, how many buckets do I need? How much material do I need? What's going to occur over time? Can I mix, another batch on top of a little bit of mud that's in the bottom? Like all that stuff.
And that was my biggest thing too yesterday, is mixing. And I kept telling myself, I'm like, you need to mix a whole box. You need to mix a whole box, because I don't want to mess with the way that the colors are. That's what my client's expecting, is that exactly. You're like, don't do it.
Yeah, don't. And it's only mud's more expensive now, but it's a $12, $15 box of mud. Just spin it up. Mm-hmm. It's not, if you can use it for butt joints or whatever, like patches down the road, if you end up not using it, it's not like it's going to go to waste. But also if you use clean water, it'll keep too. So there's all that. There's a lot of there is a lot of little tricks once you start getting into it.
I want to order some different sealers so I have something to compare to, and a lot of these people are looking for the modern. That's why I ordered so many. I wanted those grays, is because they want that modern look, for accent walls, for fireplace mantles and things like that. These are, a lot of these people are asking for smooth wall because they're coming from the East Coast. They're coming from California. So it's a pretty cool product, man. I'm excited.
Yeah. You should be able to do okay with it. And then again too, you don't have to eat the whole elephant, man. You can bite off an accent wall or just a room or a fireplace or a hood, and just start doing, do a section or do an accent wall in your own house and just get the feel of it. 'Cause you can go right over painted texture. So do a wall in your house and try it out and play around with it before you go crazy.
Well, that's pretty much what I was going to do too, is I wanted to that's why I got this master bedroom. And then I have my girl's salon. Actually, her owner of the building was going to let me do her ceiling grid and then an accent wall where her her shampoo chairs are. So
Okay.
I definitely want to get some more experience before I just go ahead and just say go for it. But with the kind of product that it is, I mean, I think it's really user friendly to a point where I wouldn't be, I mean, my tapers, they do a great job. Like if I had them go and do a base coat, I know it's going to turn out pretty good, you know. And then the thing is, like I was telling you, is I want it to kind of have the Santa Fe look too, but we'll thin the mud down really thin to a point where it's almost gives the impression of smooth, but it still has some depth.
We pull it flat, man. I mean, it's what people don't, I think when people are new, they don't realize that I'm leaving a heavier base coat and a tighter second coat. And that creates the flashing. So my second coat is like tight. I pull it, I take all the mud back off and I run that coat thin. The base coat is going to be my swirl texture. So like, just like Drywall Shorty does, like she lathers that shit on there, man. That's your base coat, like just the way she's doing it. And you get all those cool, like sort of draw lines, but your second coat, if you pulled tight over that swirl texture that she's doing, boom, you'd have Fresco Harmony. It'd look great.
That's what I did is I pulled it really tight today. And I mean, it's almost smooth. And I mean, I think it's going to look really by the time I put the sealer on. I think because he didn't want to do the living room because he wasn't sure how it was going to turn out. But I think once he sees it now, he's going to be like, damn it, I wish I would have done it in my living room. So, but it's just I don't know. I'm excited. And you're right. I don't want to bite off more than I can chew. And that's kind of why, you know, I want to play it by ear and kind of get the basis down. And, you know, because I have a lot of people interested in it. I mean, everyone that I recommend to in commercial, you name it. I have a huge commercial job coming up and he was kind of interested in it too. And I just love the way that it complements the plaster. I mean, a huge, man, without all the headache. And I actually bid a plaster job and it was just a ridiculous amount of time, and then the money for the material itself was just like insane. I mean, it's so you know, and then using imperial board, there's all these things, spraying a special primer and all that stuff. It's just they do it in Santa Fe still. They hang a special board. They got the brown coat with the chicken wire, like no joke, dude. And I'm just like, you could Fresco. And I mean, it's not exactly the same. It's a little softer, but you can skim right over it. Yeah. And you can fix anything that goes wrong. And that plaster is going to hairline crack and it's going to need to be patched at some point. You're not going to do a job without patching. There's a big house here in Corrales. They did the whole house in the sanded finish. And I went over and looked at it with the client. Ton of patching, just a ton, you know, and she's like, you know, and I was like, well, it's going to take, you know, probably 8 to 10 hours to go through this. Drywall guy maybe doesn't want to do it. She'll get the money out of him for like the small go backs. But like the floor guy, they did concrete floor and they did a base in concrete guy, you know, put duct tape on the wall, rip the sealer off, you know, like all that, like, you know, so it needs to be fixed. Like, I don't know, man. I really want to hit the ground running on it. And I'm going to order more product ultimately and just try to get my hands in it as much as possible. And want to do some swirl and, you know, I love the artistic aspect of it, you know, and that's really, you know, what it comes down to. And I just, I mean, I want to be, you know, a lot of these guys, I hear them traveling, you know, Cam going to other states to do Fresco, you know, and things like that.
And likewise too, you could do a project, or if you get a whole house, we could come to Kalispell and like, you're more
welcome to, man. And that's,
it'd be great.
Yeah. And come and get some skiing or get some snowboarding in while you're here
Totally.
Yeah. But, and I just, you know, I don't know how long the boom's going to last. I mean, I'm scheduling into again, like 2025. So, I'm just kind of hoping for the best. And, you know, if I can try to set myself apart, which is really what this is all about, is trying to set myself apart from other contractors. And I want to do it. My girl's excited for me too. She's like, you know, she wants me to do well in it, you know, and we'll see, but it's stressful, dude. It is. And then the more I take on, it's going to get, you know, even more intense. But I mean, a lot of people, they have other help, you know, they're not just doing it by themselves, you know? And so I just need to, what's up, dude? And yeah, but yeah, you can tell I'm kind of stressed out, but I love it, man. I really do, you
Yeah.
know, but yeah, I want to keep going with it. I'm going to order some, I think a little bit of everything, and
Yeah, we can chat about it. What's next steps and things like that.
yes. And I'm going to, anytime I have any question, I know that I can call you and ask you, what's your recommendation, and
Yeah.
that's huge. And I had my supply store, they're asking me like, well, where'd you get this Fresco? And I'm like, well, I think you can become an authorized distributor, but they're
Is that Pacific? Is that Pacific Supply?
this is Northwest Drywall.
That's Northwest.
Yep. And they carry everything, taping tools. They carry the specialty stuff that nobody else does.
Who's the contact over there that I talked to?
You could talk to Steve, would be a good guy. Steve is like your general manager, or Brent. Brent too is another general manager there.
Yeah, I'll reach out.
Yeah, man. I mean, they carry everything, and it'd be an awesome opportunity. I'm like, don't tell anybody, but like this is my secret. I'm just kidding, but no.
Yeah, you know what's funny about that though, Spencer, is that some people, they put a toe in. They'll do an accent wall, or they'll do a couple accent walls. Some people like Cam, they totally climb on board. Some people totally poo-poo the idea. They think it's ridiculous. Some people go, so it's not like, and ultimately, I think it helps the plaster community even more. There's another like thing that you can do. There's another, we're doing is promoting the idea of specialty walls. There's something different than tape and than texture and paint, So, yeah, I wouldn't worry about like somebody coming in and stealing all your work out of the gate. Not to mention, you're this far ahead.
No, and I don't really, I want everybody to be successful, man. I mean, there's too much work to go around anyway, and I every time I even dropped a sample chart off at Northwest Drywall the other day, and I'm like, hey, check this out, just, take a glimpse.
And what was their feedback? They had never heard of it. They were just out of
people
curiosity.
don't really understand until they see it on a wall, Nick. So unless they don't really have a clue of what, So, and that's really what it is. I'm going to have my dad do some drone footage of this one that I'm cool. finishing up in Lakeside, so I can kind of, show the depth, and, I'm going to get some nice lights in there so I can really, show them what it looks like, and I just I just try to market it like anything else, and I'm a
Cam does a good job of his like photography and the way he films it. He does a pretty good job, but he's also doing flashier Fresco too, that I think is more attractive.
It is, and it's great for like commercial spaces and things like that, offices, and there's a certain clientele.
It's not for everybody. It's good for video content too. Like it looks good, but not everybody wants this like crazy busy, finish. But it is great for content, and the way he films is really great too.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's kind of, I saw that first. I think it was the Martinez Black, or it was the Martinez Storm. He was using, and I forgot what sealer he used, but it just popped right away. It looks like oil slick on the wall, and it's like a lot of people love that. If he has if they have a game room, or if they have just a bar, like a bar accent wall or something like that. There's just so many different applications you can use it for, and I just have to market it right. But everybody that I suggest it to, they're just like, well, what's that? And then I have the high-end builders, and they want to do the whole house in it, and so it's really, I'm trying to get my foot in the door.
That's when I wouldn't, you don't have to be so scared. Like it could be a situation where you could have a couple of ballers come for a week, and we just dial in your guys, and then you know all the tricks, and you're off and running, and you can just blow out a whole house. It seems daunting at first, but I've been down the path already. I know sort of the logistics behind doing whole houses. And then we also have companies that are doing whole houses here where they're constantly evolving the method. There's stucco. You can do stucco. Why not? It's no different than stuccoing the outside of a house.
Yeah.
Elite Drywall is now doing the sealer at the end before the CO. So they're waiting on the sealer and they're doing all their patches and everything and then coming in and spending a couple days just sealing it up right at the end. I was like, that's so smart.
Yeah.
So it's still always evolving, which is cool.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know. I want to see where it takes me. And I want to kind of just try to market as much as I can. I mean, now I have the jobs. I mean, I have the interest. I know I do. I think I just need to present it well and show, their finished product. And, I'm still trying to talk this bigger house into it because he's like, well, I need a little more detail, in terms of, because there's a lot of masking involved. If they're going to be doing different walls, different colors, I mean, there's quite a bit of, masking.
Yeah, I wouldn't get too far into the weeds on the add-ons though. And there's a trick to the masking too, where you can do, if you have accent walls, there's a definite trick that we can discuss about masking so that you're only remasking one time throughout the entire process. Because you don't have to mask necessarily the base coat. You can do it, let it dry, cut in only until the second coat. You can second coat and seal and then pull masking at one shot. So there's some tricks there.
The bees are ruthless. Are the bees bad where you're at? Oh my God.
Nah, we have these little no-see-ums that bite us all over the place. Some type of method that you've adopted other than Fresco Harmony in the last 6 months that has changed the way that you do drywall for the better, something maybe that you thought was ridiculous and that you'd never switch?
So before, I had tapers that were getting really lazy and they didn't want to run their angle box. So
nice.
They were exactly. And they think, oh, well, I'll just cover it with hand texture. But it's like,
of course
they spend twice the amount of time fixing their angles and then sanding them afterwards.
Okay.
So that was probably the biggest, I just tried to get him to, and Hamilton, I stopped using, but then again, when I'm using Hamilton, it's got a tint to it. So doesn't that mess with the color at all or no?
Yeah.
Does it?
I always say, well, use one brand.
Okay.
So your lighter colors, yeah, it's going to affect that. I like the USG +3 because it's
white.
It has a wider base. And it's more universal than a lot of the other muds. So you can get it on the East Coast or you can get it in Canada, different places. But regardless, if there's a mud that you like using, use that mud. And I recommend all purpose because if you have to patch with it, you can tape and you can tape with the colored mud also.
Definitely. So, that was probably, I used Hamilton all purpose on my base coat and I didn't really like it. It was so tinted. It was very similar to the Westbrook. So I was like, I should probably start using something a little wider. So I used a topping and I used some topping today and it lays on a lot nicer.
Okay.
So, and it smooths out really nice. I mean, in my opinion, and we use that for most Santa Fe's. So I'll do all my coating and all purpose. I don't really use +3.
Okay.
But then it also shrinks back so much when I use all purpose. So,
right.
I'm trying to use +3 when I'm coating corner bead and things like that. But I like that all purpose dries harder for my joints for sure. I've noticed. Yeah. So, I'm, trying to get the mud down. Yeah. I used Beadex for a long time.
Okay.
But I'm switching to Hamilton, but then I also like Bead. I don't know. I can't choose one or the other.
I've used Beadex up there. I like it for Fresco.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And but yeah, we're paying close to $13.50, I think, a box for mud right now. So it's kind of outrageous. And I talk to old timers and they're like, oh, I remember when mud was $7 or $5 a box. I'm like, back in my day. So but what I've noticed is drywall prices haven't really gone up that much in the last, 15, they have a little bit because I know tapers
not enough.
So,
yeah, you guys are doing okay in Montana. Just from the conversations that I've had, it's more challenging in other areas to make a buck, especially in the Southwest where I'm at. It's cheap. It's like people get beat up really bad down here.
Because there's too many people and they want to give the work away for free, but they don't understand really how much effort goes into it, and it's So I'm finding my clientele. The biggest thing is knowing who to work for. I don't want to work for the builders that are looking for the cheapest, most affordable, and the quality shows ultimately. So, but yeah. But I'm gonna keep working on it, man. I want to get this Fresco dialed in, dude. I'm excited. I want to keep going.
And then your pearl of wisdom, and I will let you go. Get back to those beautiful kiddos. What would you say to the drywall community if you could put something on a billboard or give a little tidbit, a gem of advice? What would it be?
I would say just don't overthink it. Just if you feel like you're capable and you're confident enough to go into it, I mean, don't overthink it. I waited almost 2 years before I went out and did my own thing. And now I have painters, tell me all the time how great of a job I do. And people, they look at me different because I'm young, so they, I have guys that are twice my age working for me. So it's like, it's hard to get the respect, but once you earn it and they see your quality work, I mean, it really kind of speaks for itself, and so I guess just stick to it, and if you feel like you're ready, then go for it, and just don't have so much doubt in yourself, and that's what I love about Fresco is the fact that I know that it's meant for me to succeed. It's not, it's not complicated, and, there's some trial and error, but luckily, having somebody that I can talk to like you, for
it's key.
For learning, it's huge.
A lot of these other companies, man, it's like you can't even order the shit online. You have to take a class, or you got to jump through like a bunch of hoops. And then it's like, I need to talk to somebody, I want to order this stuff. How do I use it? Is there anything I need to know? I spend a lot of time fielding calls and helping people out. And it's a pleasure for me to see you have success. It's designed to be easy. I wouldn't, I tell people it's not snake oil. There's a lot of products out there that are just kind of snake oil that you don't really need for drywall. But
that's why I went with Fresco, because I was going to go to the East Coast and take that class for that metallic paint. But the class was like $3,500, and then they sent you home with like $150 worth of product. And it's like, I wanted something that I could use in my
Hey, just you heard it here on the Drywall Podcast. $3,500. I will come to your hometown and we'll play around. We'll do a job. I'll do it with your guys. I'll give you 2 whole days on the job training.
I might take you up on that, dude, because my crew, I mean, they're interested. He wants to learn it. His name's Lupe.
It'd be fun. It'd be fun.
Yeah. And they're excited, and they're just happy because where they're from in Colorado, they get $7 a sheet. So, what we're doing here is just like, he's excited,
This will double. You can double your profit margin on any wall that you're doing Fresco Harmony. You can double, triple, you can have minimum pricing. It's wide open. So you can kind of go on and do a $2,000 fireplace.
Yep.
No problem.
I used to know this plaster contractor, and he charged $30,000 for a fireplace for some of these high-end builders.
Yeah.
And it was like, there was like bevels and what is it, strike marks and things like that. But it was
10 hours. 10 hours, exactly. Dude.
Yeah. But dude, I appreciate you, Nick. Definitely, man. And thank you for taking the time. And
absolutely.
Maybe sit down. But I'm going to keep watching all your videos and take in everything that I possibly can, and I want to do it. And I know it's going to be successful. So
Spencer, Dahlen, Dysylvia Drywall and Construction, Kalispell, Montana.
It's Dysylva,
not Dysylvia, just Dysylva.
No, it's Portuguese. So my grandfather's full-blooded Portuguese, and then my mom's Portuguese. She was born in Brazil, actually. So it's
thank you so much for being on the Drywall Podcast. It was we squeezed it out. I'm gonna have to do a lot of editing, but it was a pleasure to meet you, talk to you twice. Also, we could do like a 45-minute and then a 30-minute with the other videos, so we could splice them together or whatever. People get tired of listening to Spencer talk about Fresco for sure. I don't.
No, I know, but it's because I'm excited, man. I was like, I'm stoked. I'm ready to get rolling. But
that's awesome.
I'd love to have you come and teach him a class if possible.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
I'd like to learn some stuff too.
Yeah, and we can do sample boards on the job, we could do, wait till you have a room and we'll blow out a room and we'll talk about all the different ways. And I think it would be beneficial because it's like, well, you're doing too much here. Oh, you're not doing enough here. Oh, this will save you a ton of time. All those little things, 3 days, dude. You'd be off to the races.
Sweet, yeah. Dude. Thank you, Nick. I appreciate it. Have a good rest of your night.
You too, buddy. Talk soon.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye. Huge shout out to Spencer for joining us on the Drywall Podcast today. Really love talking to you, and I'm excited to see where your journey goes with the Fresco Harmony. It sounds pretty exciting. Stay tuned for a special Fresco Harmony focused episode of the Drywall Podcast with Spencer. We talk on the phone for like 30 minutes about color, selling Fresco Harmony, etc. And also, he'll be receiving a sweet swag bucket from our friends at CSR just for coming on the podcast. If you are interested in coming on the podcast, telling your story, I would love to hear from you. Reach out at info@frescoharmony.com and let's touch base. Also, I'd like to give a final shout out to SurPro Stilts for sponsoring the month of August. We really appreciate it. If you are looking for an iconic drywall brand that stands the test of time, stand with SurPro. Elevate your safety and your comfort and your performance with the leaders in stilts. Visit stilts.com and elevate your game. Drywall Podcast can be listened to on your favorite platforms with new episodes every Friday. I try to have new episodes and I try to make them interesting, and I just want to say I really appreciate you guys for tuning in and listening, especially you guys that tune in and listen every Friday. I know you're out there and I want you to know I appreciate you. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. Don't get into any trouble. And remember, keep drywalling.